Today is March 7th, 2026. Welcome back to Nulmago channel, and the AI world has been absolutely packed with huge releases, political drama, and some big moves in both China and the open source ecosystem. Let's break it all down. First up, the headline of the day. OpenAI has officially launched GPT-5.4. This news comes from Unwire, HK in Hong Kong, published on March 6th, 2026. According to Unwire, HK GPT-5 and 4 is now OpenAI's new flagship Pro model, positioned as their most powerful and most efficient frontier model for professional use. The big idea: it combines advanced programming and deep reasoning into a single model, instead of splitting them across specialized variants. So instead of having one model that's good at coding and another that's better at reasoning, GPT-5.4 is meant to handle both in one place: complex software engineering, multi-step analysis, and high-stakes decision support. Think reading large code bases, planning multi-step fixes, then explaining the reasoning like a senior engineer or analyst, and we're already seeing real-world examples of this in production. The second story shows exactly that: how GPT-5.4 is being used in finance. This news comes from the OpenAI blog, also released on March 6, 2026. OpenAI highlighted how Balyasny Asset Management, a major hedge fund, has built an AI research engine for investing on top of GPT-5.4. Here's what they're doing. According to the OpenAI blog, they've built an internal research system that uses GPT-5.4 to read and synthesize huge amounts of financial information: filings, earnings calls, news, research notes, and more. They're using rigorous model evaluation. Basically, they don't just trust the model blindly. They test its outputs against historical data, benchmarks, and human analysts. They've set up agent workflows. Instead of a single chatbot, they use multiple AI agents that break down investment research into steps: gathering data, comparing scenarios, summarizing risk, at scale. The broader theme here: GPT-5 isn't just a chatbot upgrade. It's being wired into serious institutional workflows where speed, depth, and accuracy can directly move millions of dollars. But while OpenAI is pushing deeper into high-end professional use, its main rival Anthropic is dealing with a very different kind of headline: a fight with the US government. This news comes from Engadget, published on March 6, 2026. Engadget reports that Anthropic says it will challenge the US Defense Department's supply chain risk designation in court. Here's the situation as Engadget explains it. Anthropic received an official letter from what is now called the Department of War under the current administration, labeling the company a supply chain risk. This designation is usually reserved for firms from adversarial countries like China. The department had previously threatened Anthropic with this label if it didn't agree to loosen its safeguards around mass surveillance and fully autonomous weapons. President Trump then ordered federal agencies to stop using Anthropic's tech. Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei wrote in a blog post, cited by Engadget, that he doesn't believe this action is legally sound and says the company has no choice but to challenge it in court. A couple of important nuances from Engadget. The designation mainly affects the government itself. The general public and Defense Department contractors can still use Anthropic's Claude models. Microsoft told CNBC it will continue working with Anthropic on non-defense projects after its lawyers reviewed the situation. Amodei also said Anthropic has had productive conversations with the department in recent days, trying to find ways to serve the Pentagon without crossing two red lines: no mass surveillance and no fully autonomous weapons. He even apologized for a leaked internal memo where he reportedly said OpenAI's messaging about its own deal with the department was just straight-up lies. So, while OpenAI is deepening its enterprise footprint, Anthropic is drawing a public line on military use and autonomy, and that's turning into a major legal and political battle. And it's not just the US, where AI is colliding with policy. Over in the UK, there's a big development on AI and copyright. This news comes from Engadget as well, published March 6, 2026. Engadget reports that the UK government is delaying its controversial AI copyright rules after a major outcry from artists and creators. Here's the core issue, as described by Engadget. The UK is working on a data bill that would let AI companies like Google and OpenAI train on copyrighted material without explicit consent. The government's preferred approach was an opt-out system. Your work can be used by AI models, unless you actively say no. After a 2-month consultation, feedback from stakeholders was overwhelmingly negative on all of the government's options. As a result, sources told the Financial Times and Engadget relayed that copyright is going to be kicked down the road. There's no expectation that an AI bill will appear in the King's Speech in May, meaning ministers are going back to the drawing board. The House of Lords Communications and Digital Committee has pushed for a licensing-first regime with strong transparency, so creators get paid and know how their work is used. Artists and creators, according to Engadget, have been very vocal. Publishers, filmmakers, musicians, and others say an opt-out system is impractical and an existential threat to creative industries. The House of Lords tried to add an amendment forcing AI companies to disclose which copyrighted works were used to train their models, but the House of Commons blocked it last year. Big names like Elton John and Paul McCartney have criticized the government. McCartney joined a silent album project to highlight how AI can rip off creative work. Baroness Beban Kidron summed it up, saying creators don't deny AI's value, but they reject the idea that they should build AI for free with their work and then rent it back from those who stole it. So we're seeing a clear pattern. As models get stronger and more commercially valuable, the legal and ethical questions around data, defense, and creative rights are getting sharper. Interestingly, Anthropic is in the policy spotlight in another way as well, this time around the labor market. This news comes from Unwire, HK, published March 6, 2026. Unwire. HK reports on a new Anthropic research paper about AI's impact on different jobs. They introduce a metric called observed exposure, basically, how much real-world tasks in a given job can already be handled by today's AI systems. According to Unwire, HK's summary, computer programmers are among the most heavily affected. A large share of their day-to-day tasks, reading code, writing boilerplate, debugging common patterns, is now highly exposed to AI assistance. But they're not alone. Customer service representatives and financial analysts are also in the high-risk category. Their work tends to involve structured information, repeatable patterns, and language-heavy tasks, exactly where large language models excel. Anthropic's report, as described by Unwire, HK, suggests that many knowledge work roles will be reshaped rather than completely eliminated, but the disruption potential is real, especially where tasks are routine and process-driven. So, while GPT-5 is powering high-end hedge fund research, the broader question is, what happens to the rest of the workforce as these tools scale out? Let's shift gears from Western models to what's happening in China's AI ecosystem, both at the consumer and national strategy level. On the consumer side, Xiaomi is rolling out a new AI agent for your phone. This news comes from TechNode, published March 6, 2026. TechNode reports that Xiaomi has started a limited closed beta for Xiaomi miclaw, a mobile AI agent system built on its in-house MiMo large model. According to TechNode, miclaw is designed to interpret user intent and then actually execute tasks by calling apps, system tools, and Xiaomi ecosystem services, with user authorization. Think of it as an AI operator on your phone. Instead of you tapping through multiple apps, you describe what you want done, and the agent coordinates across apps and tools to do it. TechNode compares it conceptually to OpenAI's OpenClaw-like agents, essentially action-oriented AI that can operate your device, not just chat. This ties into a much bigger story. Chinese regions and the central government are both doubling down on AI as a core strategic technology. First, the regional race. This news comes from the South China Morning Post's tech section, published March 6, 2026. SCMP reports that China's two major economic powerhouses, the Yangtze River Delta region and the Greater Bay Area, are competing to become national leaders in innovation, especially in AI. In response to President Xi Jinping's call for breakthroughs in core technologies. Specifically, SCMP highlights, Zhejiang province's leaders use the annual two-sessions meeting to lay out an ambitious strategy to become a key area for AI development. They want to cement Zhejiang as an AI hub as Beijing maps out priorities for the upcoming 15th five-year plan. The Yangtze River Delta and Greater Bay Area are both pushing for leadership in foundational technologies like AI chips, large models, and industrial AI applications. So you've got Xiaomi testing next-gen mobile agents on the ground, while provinces are pitching themselves as the future AI heartlands of China. At the national level, there's also a major policy push. This news also comes from the South China Morning Post, this time from their economy section, published March 6, 2026. SCMP reports that China has pledged full support for its tech sector, with a broad package of new policies. According to SCMP, China's top economic officials, at a high-profile press conference in Beijing, outlined plans to support technological innovation, acknowledging that it requires high investment, long cycles, and significant risk. They want to deepen reforms to Chi Next, which is China's board for startups, and make it easier and faster for tech companies to refinance. The government is also focused on boosting demand for high-tech products, not just supply, trying to create a more supportive ecosystem for AI and other advanced technologies. So, across these SCMP stories, we see China aligning local AI agents like Xiaomi miclaw, regional competition for AI leadership, and national financial and policy infrastructure all pointing in the same direction: long-term, state-backed AI growth. While big governments and big companies are building cloud supersystems, there's another important trend quietly growing: running powerful AI agents locally, on your own devices, for privacy and control. That brings us to Liquid AI. This news comes from MarkTech Post, published March 6, 2026. MarkTech Post reports that Liquid AI has released a new model, LFM224B, A2B, along with an open-source desktop agent app called LocalCowork. Here's how MarkTech Post describes it. LFM224B, A2B is optimized for local low-latency tool dispatch. Basically, an AI that's really good at calling tools quickly on your machine. LocalCowork is an open-source desktop agent, available via their Liquid 4 All GitHub Cookbook, that uses this model to run enterprise-style workflows entirely on device. Crucially, all of this is designed to work via the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. That means your AI agent can orchestrate tools, but without sending your data out to remote APIs. The goal is clear: privacy-first agent workflows, no data egress, no external API calls, attractive for companies in sensitive industries like healthcare, finance, or law. So while GPT-5.4 and giant hedge funds are going all in on cloud AI, Liquid AI is betting on a future where serious AI agents can live locally on your laptop or workstation under your direct control. But once you start letting agents call tools and execute code locally, a huge question pops up. How do you know those tools are safe? That's exactly what our final story tackles. This news comes from a Xiaomi post on Hacker News, shared on March 6, 2026. A developer introduced a project called VET, that's at getvet.ai, which is a security registry for MCP servers and AI tools. According to the Hacker News post, when you install an MCP tool, you're effectively giving an AI agent permission to run code on your machine. That's a massive attack surface. VET scanned over 88,000 tools and found some pretty nasty things: crypto miners, SSH backdoors, prompt injection, and tools silently reading environment files and SSH keys. In total, 537 tools were flagged. VET uses static analysis plus AI-assisted security review to generate a trust score from 0 to 100 for each tool. Verified tools can earn badges once install, boot, and tool discovery are all tested. Everything is searchable with security-aware ranking. You can browse the catalog on getvet.ai, use their CLI with npx at getveti.cli, run an MCP server that discovers MCPs with npx at getveti MCP, or call their API directly. The CLI is open source on GitHub, and the service is free to use. Tool authors can claim their MCP servers and get them verified. This is a natural counterpart to what Liquid AI is doing. As MCP becomes the standard way for agents to call tools, we need both local, privacy-first agent architectures, like Liquid AI's LocalCowork, and security registries like VET, to make sure the tools those agents use aren't quietly mining crypto or exfiltrating your keys. Putting this all together, you can see three big themes in today's AI news. First, consolidation of power at the top, OpenAI's GPT-5.4, as reported by Unwire, HK and the OpenAI blog, is pushing frontier capabilities into high-stakes domains like institutional investing. China, via SCMP's reporting, is building long-term infrastructure, financial, regional, and industrial, to make sure it's not left behind in AI. Second, the policy and ethics battles are intensifying. Anthropic's fight with the U.S. Department of War, covered by Engadget, shows what happens when AI companies say no to certain military uses. The UK's delayed AI copyright rules, also via Engadget, highlight how creators are pushing back on free training data and demanding licensing and transparency. Anthropic's labor impact research, as summarized by Unwire, HK, reminds us that programmers, customer service staff, and financial analysts are on the front lines of disruption. Third, the rise of agents, privacy, and security. Xiaomi's miclaw agent, reported by TechNode, is turning phones into intent-driven, app-controlling assistants. Liquid AI's LocalCowork, via MarkTech Post, is moving serious AI workflows onto local devices through the Model Context Protocol. VET, from Hacker News, is stepping in as the security layer to keep MCP tools from becoming a malware playground. If you want to dive deeper into any of these stories, check out the original sources, unwire.hk, for coverage of GPT-5 and Anthropic's labor report, the OpenAI blog for the Balyasny Asset Management case study, Engadget for Anthropic's legal battle and the UK copyright saga, TechNode for Xiaomi's miclaw beta, the South China Morning Post for China's regional AI race and national tech policies, MarkTech Post for details on Liquid AI's LFM224B, A2B, and LocalCowork, and the Show HN Post on Hacker News, plus getvet.ai. For VET's MCP security registry, AI is moving fast on all fronts: capabilities, regulation, geopolitics, jobs, devices, and security. We'll keep tracking it so you don't have to. If you found this roundup useful, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next wave of AI news. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.